The war had lasted 300 years. 300 years of blood and fire and death across 12 star systems. The vampires had thought it would be easy. They were stronger, faster, and they could not die from age. Humans were soft creatures who lived for barely a century. How hard could it be to conquer them? They learned the answer the hard way. Humans did not fight like other species. When vampires burned their cities, humans rebuilt them within months. When vampires killed their soldiers, more soldiers came. Generation after generation, humans threw themselves into battle with a fury that made no sense. They were not afraid to die. They seemed almost eager for it, as long as they could take a vampire with them. In the end, the vampires asked for peace, not because they were losing, but because they were tired. Immortal beings should not feel tired, but humans had taught them exhaustion. The peace treaty was signed on a neutral space station that floated between their territories. Representatives from both sides gathered in a great hall with white walls and bright lights. The vampires stood on one side, tall and pale and beautiful in a terrible way. The humans stood on the other side, shorter and softer, but with something hard in their eyes. Admiral Hannah spoke for humanity. She was a small woman with gray hair and a face full of wrinkles. She had fought in the war for 40 years. She had lost 2 sons and a daughter to vampire attacks. But her voice was calm when she read the terms of the treaty. As a symbol of peace and unity, she said, the noble houses of the vampire empire will send brides to human officials. These unions will bind our peoples together and ensure that war never comes again. The vampires hated this tradition. It was meant to shame them, to show that they had lost. But they agreed because they wanted the war to end. Una stood among the vampire nobles, her face like carved ice. She was called the Crimson Reaper. In 300 years of war, she had killed more humans than anyone could count. Entire colonies had fallen to her blade. Her name was used to frighten human children into obedience. Now she was being given away like a prize. Her father, Lord Kang, stood beside her. He was an ancient warlord with eyes like black holes. He leaned close and whispered, "This is temporary. Play along. When the time comes, you will show these humans what we truly think of their peace." Una said nothing. She watched as names were drawn from a box. Vampire brides were matched with human officials through a lottery. It was random, meaningless, insulting. When her name was called, a human official stepped forward with a tablet. The match for Lady Una is a Taiho, civilian, agricultural engineer, Earth Colony 7. A murmur went through the crowd. Not a general or an admiral, not even a soldier, a farmer. Lord Kang's face twisted with rage, but he said nothing. Una kept her expression empty. Inside, something cold moved through her chest. She had expected hatred. She had expected fear. But this was beneath contempt. She was taken to a small shuttle that would carry her to Earth Colony 7. The journey took 3 days. She spent most of it alone in her cabin, staring at the stars and thinking about all the humans she had killed. She wondered if this Tai-Ho had lost anyone to her blade. She wondered if he would try to kill her in her sleep. The shuttle landed on a world of green fields and blue sky. It looked soft, peaceful, weak. A man waited for her at the landing pad. He was not tall. He was not handsome. He had a round face and kind eyes and dirt under his fingernails. He wore simple clothes, the kind a worker might wear. When he saw her step off the shuttle, he smiled. He smiled at her. Una had killed thousands of humans. She had seen them scream and beg and cry. She had seen them fight with desperate fury. But she had never seen one smile at her. Not like this. Not like she was a guest instead of a monster. "Hello," the man said. He bowed, a human gesture of respect. "I am Tae-Ho. Welcome to Colony 7. I hope your journey was comfortable." Una stared at him. She let her eyes glow red, a sign of vampire anger. Most humans would fall to their knees at the sight. This man just looked at her with polite interest. "You do not fear me," she said. Her voice was cold. "Do you know who I am?" "You are Una," he said, "the Crimson Reaper. You killed more humans than anyone in the war." He said it like he was reading facts from a book. No anger, no fear, just information. "And yet you smile at me. Would you prefer I cry?" He seemed genuinely curious. Una did not know how to answer that question. She bared her fangs, long and sharp and white. I could kill you before you took your next breath. Tejo nodded. Yes, I believe you could. Would you like some tea first? The shuttle food is never very good. You must be hungry. He paused. Or thirsty, I suppose. I read that vampires prefer blood, but I do not have any prepared. I could get some from the medical center if you need it. She stared at him for a long moment. The wind blew across the landing pad, carrying the smell of growing things. Somewhere in the distance, birds were singing. You are strange, she said at last. I have been told that before. He picked up her single bag without asking and started walking toward a small house at the edge of the field. My home is not large, but it is comfortable. I prepared a room for you. It faces away from the sun, in case that matters. He had thought about her comfort. This human whose people she had slaughtered for centuries had thought about whether she might be bothered by sunlight. Una followed him because she did not know what else to do. Her entire existence had been built on fear. She was a weapon, a monster, a nightmare given flesh. And this small human with dirt under his fingernails had looked at her like she was just another person. It made no sense. They reached his home, a modest building made of wood and stone. Inside it was warm and clean and filled with the smell of cooking food. He led her to a small room with a bed and a window that faced north, away from the morning sun. Rest if you need to, he said. Dinner will be ready in an hour. I made soup. I hope that is acceptable. He left her alone. Una sat on the bed and stared at the wall. She had been prepared for hatred. She had been prepared for violence. She had been prepared for cold silence and bitter words. She had not been prepared for kindness. In her mind, a single thought formed, sharp and clear. This human is either very brave or completely broken. I will find out which. And if he was broken, she would understand. But if he was brave, if he truly felt no fear of her, then she needed to know why. Because in 300 years of war, she had never met a human like this. She had never met anyone like this. Outside the window, the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Una watched it and felt something she had not felt in a very long time. She felt curious. The first week was the hardest. Not because Tai-Ho was cruel or cold, but because he was neither. He treated Una like she was a guest in his home, nothing more and nothing less. He cooked meals for her. He showed her where things were kept. He asked if she needed anything and actually listened to her answers. It made Una angry in a way she could not explain. She began to test him. Small tests at first. She would appear behind him without making a sound close enough to touch. Most humans would scream or jump, or at least gasp. Tejo would simply turn around and say, "Oh, hello. Did you need something?" She moved faster than human eyes could follow, crossing the room in the blink of an eye. He watched with mild interest, like someone watching a bird fly past. "That is very fast," he said. "Does it make you tired?" At night, she let her eyes glow red in the darkness. She stood in the doorway of his room while he slept, a shadow with burning eyes. He woke up, looked at her, and said, "Is everything okay? Do you need an extra blanket?" Nothing worked. Nothing scared him. Una had spent centuries learning to read the signs of fear, the racing heartbeat, the quick breathing, the smell of sweat and terror. She could sense these things from across a room. But when she listened to Tai-Ho's heartbeat, it was slow and steady. When she breathed in his scent, there was no fear at all. "Why are you not afraid of me?" she demanded one evening. They were sitting at his small table, eating dinner. She had barely touched her food. Tai-Ho considered the question. He chewed his rice slowly, thinking, "Should I be? I am a monster. I have killed thousands of your people. I could end your life with a single movement." "Yes," he agreed, "you could, but you have not. And until you do, I see no reason to be afraid." "That makes no sense." He shrugged. "Perhaps not, but I have spent too much of my life being afraid. I do not have energy for it anymore." Una leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Explain." So he did. He told her about his childhood on a different colony, one that no longer existed. When he was 8 years old, vampires had attacked. His father had been killed in the first wave. His mother had put him on an evacuation ship and stayed behind to fight. She never came back. He spent the next 10 years in refugee camps. moving from place to place as the war continued. He watched friends die from sickness and starvation. He saw families torn apart. He lived in constant fear, waiting for the next attack, the next tragedy, the next loss. When I was 18, he said, I decided I was done being afraid. Fear had taken everything from me, my family, my home, my childhood. I would not let it take anything more. That is not how fear works, Una said. You cannot simply decide to stop feeling it. No, he agreed, but I can decide what to do with it. I can let it control me, or I can set it aside and do what needs to be done. I chose the second option. He took another bite of his rice. Besides, I have seen the worst that life can offer. I have already lost everything once. What more can I lose? And if I die tomorrow, at least I will die having lived without fear today. Una sat back in her chair. She had lived for 500 years. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had watched stars burn out. But she had never met anyone who spoke like this. Humans were supposed to be weak, fragile, easily broken. This man had been broken and had put himself back together with nothing but willpower. It was impossible. It was absurd. It was the most impressive thing she had ever seen. That night she contacted her father. Lord Kang's face appeared on her screen, cold and impatient. Report, he said. The human is different, Una said. He does not fear me. He does not hate me. He simply accepts my presence. Lord Kang's lip curled with disgust. Then he is weak or stupid. Either way, it does not matter. You know your mission. When the time comes, you will kill him and return to us. The peace treaty will fail, and we will finish what we started. Una nodded, but something felt wrong. A small voice in the back of her mind whispered that this was not right, that killing this man would be wrong. She pushed the voice away. She was a weapon. She did not feel guilt or doubt. She had killed thousands without hesitation. One more death meant nothing. But when she ended the call and returned to the living room, Taeho was waiting with 2 cups of tea. I thought you might like some, he said. It helps me sleep. I do not know if it works for vampires, but you are welcome to try. She took the cup. Their fingers touched briefly. His skin was warm. Hers was cold. Thank you, she said. The words felt strange in her mouth. She could not remember the last time she had thanked anyone for anything. They sat together in comfortable silence, drinking their tea and watching the stars through the window. For a moment, Una forgot that she was a monster. She forgot that he was her enemy. She was just a person, sitting with another person, sharing a quiet moment at the end of a long day. It was such a small thing, such a human thing. And yet it shook her more than any battle ever had. When Taeho went to bed, Una stayed awake. She stared at the ceiling and thought about her orders. Kill him. Destroy the peace. Return to war. It was simple. It was what she had always done. But for the first time in 500 years, Una did not want to follow orders. She did not want to kill the strange, kind, fearless man who made her tea and asked if she needed extra blankets. She did not understand what was happening to her. She only knew that something had changed, something important. Outside, the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon. Una watched it come and made a decision. She would not kill him. Not today. Maybe not ever. She did not know what that meant for her mission or her future. She did not know what her father would do when he found out. But for now, in this moment, she chose to do nothing. And for the first time in centuries, that felt like the right choice. The sun rose higher, filling the world with golden light. Somewhere in the distance, birds began to sing. And Una, the Crimson Reaper, the most feared vampire in 12 star systems, closed her eyes and listened to the sound of peace. It was beautiful. She had forgotten that anything could be beautiful. 3 months passed. Una learned more about humans in those 3 months than she had in 300 years of war. She learned that they woke up early and worked hard, that they complained about small things but endured big things without comment, that they laughed at strange jokes and cried at sad stories and felt everything so deeply that it seemed painful. Most of all, she learned that Taeho was not special. He was ordinary, completely, wonderfully ordinary. And that was what made humans so terrifying. Every day, Tejo took her to the fields. He was an agricultural engineer, which meant he spent his time making plants grow in soil that had been poisoned by war. The vampires had used weapons that killed everything, not just people. The land itself had died, and now, years later, humans were bringing it back to life. This field was completely dead when I arrived, Tejo told her, kneeling in the dirt. He held up a handful of dark soil, rich and healthy. 3 years of work, new bacteria, new nutrients. Now it grows food for 10,000 people. Yuna looked at the field. Green plants stretched toward the sky, row after row of them. She thought about the weapons her people had used. They had meant to destroy humanity forever. Instead, humans had simply started over. "Why do you do this?" she asked. "Why spend years fixing what we broke?" Tejo smiled. "Because someone has to, and because I believe things can get better. Maybe that is foolish, but I would rather be foolish and hopeful than smart and hopeless." She did not have an answer to that. As the weeks went on, Yuna began to help with the work. She did not need to. No one asked her to, but she found that she enjoyed it. There was something satisfying about putting her hands in the dirt and helping things grow. After 500 years of destroying, it felt strange to create. The other colonists were afraid of her at first. They knew who she was. They knew what she had done. But Taiho treated her like family, and slowly, carefully, they began to follow his lead. A woman named Su Min, a scientist who studied vampire biology, started asking her questions. A man named Dae Sung, a former soldier who had lost his arm in the war, nodded at her when they passed on the street. It was not forgiveness. It was not friendship. But it was something. A beginning. Then the attack came. It happened on a quiet evening, just as the sun was setting. Yuna heard them first. The high-pitched whine of vampire ships cutting through the atmosphere. She was on her feet before Tejo could ask what was wrong. "Get inside," she said. "Now." "What is happening?" "Vampires, not ours. Rogue faction. They do not accept the peace treaty." She could sense them, feel their hunger and their rage. There were at least 20 of them, maybe more. "They are here to kill everyone." Tejo's face went pale, but his heartbeat stayed steady. He turned and ran toward the colony's warning system. Within seconds, sirens filled the air. People began rushing to the underground bunkers, the safe places built during the war. Yuna grabbed his arm. "Go with them. Hide." "What about you?" "I am going to stop them." He looked at her for a long moment. Something passed between them, something that neither of them had words for. Then he nodded and ran toward the bunker. Yuna walked toward the landing field alone. The rogue vampires were already there, a group of killers in black armor with red eyes glowing in the darkness. Their leader was a tall male with scars across his face. He smiled when he saw her. "The Crimson Reaper," he said. "We heard you had become a pet for the humans. We came to free you." "I do not need to be freed." His smile faded. "Then you will die with them." They attacked. Yuna had not fought in months. She had almost forgotten what she was. But as the first vampire lunged toward her, something ancient woke up inside her. Her body moved without thought. Her claws extended, sharp as steel. Her eyes burned with crimson fire. She became what she had always been, a monster. The fight was brutal and fast. Yuna moved like smoke and shadow, striking from angles that should have been impossible. She tore through the attackers one by one, her movements too quick for even vampire eyes to follow. Blood sprayed across the landing field. Bodies fell. When it was over, she stood alone among the dead. Her dress was ruined, soaked in blood. Her hands were red to the elbows. She was breathing hard, not from exhaustion, but from something else. Something she had tried to bury. The joy of killing. She had missed it. God help her, she had missed it. A sound behind her made her spin around, claws raised. But it was only Tai Ho, standing at the edge of the field with wide eyes. He had seen everything. He had seen what she truly was. Yuna waited for the fear to finally appear in his eyes, waited for him to run, to scream, to look at her with the horror she deserved. Instead, he walked toward her slowly, carefully, like someone approaching a wounded animal. He stopped a few feet away and looked at her face. "You are hurt," he said quietly. Yuna blinked. She touched her cheek and felt wetness there. Not blood from her enemies. Something else. Tears. She was crying. She had not cried in centuries. She had forgotten she could. Taiho reached into his pocket and pulled out a cloth. He held it out to her. Here, let me see the wound. I am not wounded. Not outside, maybe. He took another step closer. But something hurts. I can see it. Yuna took the cloth. Her hands were shaking. She did not understand what was happening to her. She was the Crimson Reaper. She had killed 20 enemies in minutes. She should feel triumphant. Instead, she felt broken. What are you doing to me? She whispered. Taiho did not answer. He simply stood beside her, a small human in a field of dead vampires, and waited. After a long moment, Yuna began to wipe the blood from her hands. The tears kept falling, silent and steady. She did not try to stop them. I do not know who I am anymore, she said. Maybe that is okay, Taiho replied. Maybe you are becoming someone new. She looked at him, this impossible human who should have been terrified but was not, who should have hated her but did not, who stood beside her in her darkest moment and offered her a cloth to wipe away her tears. Why? She asked. Why are you like this? He thought about it for a moment. Then he said, because everyone deserves at least one person who sees them as more than their worst moments. Even you. Yuna had no answer to that. She only knew that something had changed inside her, something that could never be changed back. The stars came out overhead, cold and distant, but standing there in that bloody field, with a kind human beside her, Yuna did not feel cold anymore. For the first time in 500 years, she felt something like warmth. The night after the attack, a storm came to Colony 7. Thunder shook the walls of the small house. Lightning lit up the sky in flashes of white and purple. Rain pounded against the roof like thousands of tiny fists. Yuna could not sleep. Vampires did not need sleep the way humans did, but she usually rested during the dark hours. Tonight, her mind would not be quiet. The battle kept playing over and over in her head. Not the fighting itself, but what came after. The tears, the strange feeling in her chest, the way Taiho had looked at her without fear or hatred. She got up and walked through the dark house. A light was on in the living room. Taiho was sitting on the couch, a small box open on his lap. He was looking at something inside. You are awake, Yuna said. He looked up. The storm. I do not sleep well during storms. Too many memories. She sat down in the chair across from him. What are you looking at? He hesitated, then turned the box toward her. Inside were photographs, the old kind printed on paper. Pictures of people. A woman with a kind face and dark hair. A man with strong shoulders and a warm smile. 2 children, a boy and a girl, laughing at the camera. My family, Taiho said, before the war took them. Yuna looked at the photographs. The faces were ordinary, human. The kind of faces she had seen countless times on countless worlds, usually twisted with fear, in the moments before she killed them. The woman is your mother? Yes, her name was Mi Young. She was a teacher. He touched the photograph gently. She used to read to me every night before bed. Even when things were bad, even when we were running from the war, she would find a way to read to me. And the man, your father? Jin Su. He was a builder. He made things with his hands. Taiho smiled, but it was a sad smile. He used to say that humans were meant to create, not destroy. He believed that making something was the closest we could get to being immortal. Yuna felt a strange pressure in her chest. She knew what she had to say. She had known it since the moment she saw those photographs. What happened to them? My father died in the first attack on our colony. A vampire killed him while he was trying to get others to safety. Taiho's voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly. My mother put me on an evacuation ship. She stayed behind to fight. Her convoy was attacked 3 days later. No survivors. The pressure in Yuna's chest grew stronger. It was hard to breathe. I am sorry. Why? You did not kill them. She was silent. Taiho looked up at her. His eyes were calm, waiting. He already knew, she realized. Somehow he already knew. I need to tell you something, Yuna said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. Something about who I am, what I have done. You do not have to. Yes, I do. She took a breath she did not need. I have killed many humans. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. I stopped counting after the first century. She forced herself to look at him. I led attacks on colonies. I burned villages. I hunted convoys. Tejo did not move, did not speak. 30 years ago, there was a convoy fleeing a colony called New Hope. 53 civilians, mostly women and children. They were trying to reach a safe zone. Yuna's hands clenched in her lap. I led the attack that destroyed them. We killed everyone. We did not leave survivors. We never left survivors. The thunder rolled outside, long and low. The convoy was designated Transport 7, Yuna continued. The date was the 14th day of the 3rd month. I remember because it was the same day my father gave me a new blade as a reward for my service. Tejo closed his eyes. When he opened them again, there was something in them that Yuna could not name. Not anger, not hatred, something deeper. Transport 7, he said quietly. My mother was on Transport 7. Yuna nodded. She had known. She had looked up his file after the first week, curious about this strange human. She had found the records. She had seen the name Mi Young on the list of dead. She had killed his mother. I know, she said. I have known for months. And you said nothing. What could I say? What words could possibly make this better? She stood up, unable to sit still any longer. I am the monster from your nightmares. The thing that took your family. You should hate me. You should fear me. You should want me dead. Tejo was quiet for a long time. The storm raged outside, rain streaming down the windows like tears. I know who you are, he said finally. I have known since the day you arrived. Your name was in my file at the refugee camp. The counselors told me who killed my mother. They said it might help me heal if I knew. Yuna froze. You knew? From the beginning? Yes. Then why? She could not finish the question. Why did I let you into my home? Why did I make you tea? Why did I treat you like a person instead of a monster? He stood up and walked toward her. She could hear his heartbeat, slow and steady as always. Because I had a choice to make. A choice? 20 years ago, I learned your name. I learned what you had done to my family, and I had to decide what to do with that knowledge. He stopped in front of her, close enough to touch. I could let it destroy me. I could spend my life hating you, dreaming of revenge, letting the anger eat me alive. Or I could choose something else. What did you choose? To build instead of destroy, to grow instead of burn, to believe that people can change, even monsters, even vampires, even you. He reached out and took her hand. Her skin was cold. His was warm. I chose to let the past be the past and focus on what comes next. Yuna stared at their joined hands. How can you do this? How can you touch me, knowing what I have done? Because holding on to hate is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. It only destroys the one who feels it. He squeezed her hand gently. I forgave you before I ever met you. Not for your sake, for mine. Something broke inside Yuna. Something that had been frozen for 500 years. The tears came again, harder this time, a flood she could not control. I do not deserve forgiveness, she whispered. Maybe not, but you have it anyway. Tejo did not let go of her hand. The question is, what will you do with it? Yuna did not have an answer. She only knew that she was crying in front of a human whose mother she had killed. And he was holding her hand, and somehow, impossibly, he was comforting her. The storm continued outside, but inside the small house, something new was beginning. Something fragile and strange and terrifying. Something like hope. When the sun rose the next morning, Yuna was still sitting in the living room. Tejo had fallen asleep on the couch, his hand still holding hers. She watched him sleep and felt the weight of centuries pressing down on her. She had been given a gift she did not deserve, a chance she had never earned. She did not know what to do with it, but for the first time in her long, bloody existence, she wanted to try. She wanted to be something other than what she had always been. And sitting there in the morning light, holding a human's hand, the Crimson Reaper began to imagine what that something might look like. The message came at midnight, 3 weeks after the storm, Yuna was in the garden helping Tai-Ho plant new seeds when her communicator vibrated with an urgent signal. She knew who it was before she looked. Her father. "I must take this," she told Tai-Ho. "I will be back soon." She walked to the edge of the property, where the fields met the forest. The night was quiet and cool. Stars filled the sky above. She pressed the button on her communicator, and Lord Kang's face appeared. He looked angry. He always looked angry, but tonight it was worse. "You have disappointed me, daughter," he said. His voice was like ice cracking. "Father, I was not expecting your call. I have been watching you. We have agents on that pathetic colony. They report that you have become domesticated." He spat the word like it was poison. "Working in fields, living with a human, crying, you have become weak." Yuna said nothing. There was nothing to say. "The rogue vampires who attacked the colony were supposed to test you," Lord Kang continued. "They were supposed to remind you who you are. Instead, you slaughtered them to protect humans. Your own kind. They were murderers. We are all murderers." His voice rose, sharp and cold. "That is what vampires are. That is what you are. Have you forgotten?" "No," Yuna said quietly. "I have not forgotten. I simply do not wish to be that anymore." Lord Kang's eyes narrowed. For a moment, he looked more like a snake than a man. "You will come to me. Now. We have matters to discuss that cannot be spoken over this channel." "Where?" "My ship is hidden in the Darkfall Nebula, beyond treaty boundaries. I will send you the coordinates. You will come alone. You will come tonight." The signal ended. Yuna stood in the darkness for a long time. She knew what this meant. Her father was not a patient man. He was not a forgiving man. If she went to him, she would either submit to his will or die. But if she did not go, he would come for her, and he would not come alone. She returned to the house. Tai-Ho was washing his hands in the kitchen, humming a soft tune. When he saw her face, he stopped. "What is wrong?" "My father has summoned me. I must go to him." "That sounds dangerous." "It is." She looked at him, memorizing his face. The kind eyes, the gentle smile, the dirt under his fingernails. "He wants me to do something. Something I do not want to do." "What?" She hesitated. Then she told him everything. Lord Kang's plan was simple and terrible. In 2 weeks, there would be a peace celebration on the same station where the treaty had been signed. Human and vampire leaders would gather to mark the first anniversary of peace. Admiral Hana would be there. So would the Vampire Council. Yuna was supposed to assassinate Admiral Hana during the celebration. Her death would shatter the treaty. The war would begin again, and this time, the vampires would not stop until humanity was completely destroyed. "He has been planning this from the beginning," Yuna said. "The war brides were never about peace. They were about placing agents inside human territory. We were all supposed to be sleeper weapons, waiting for the order to strike." Tai-Ho was quiet for a moment. "And will you do it? Will you kill Admiral Hana?" "No." The word came out strong and certain. "I will not. I cannot. I do not want to be that monster anymore." "Then your father will try to kill you." "Yes, probably." "Then do not go." Yuna shook her head. "If I do not go, he will come here. He will burn this colony to ashes. He will kill everyone, including you. I cannot let that happen." Tai-Ho walked toward her and took her hands in his. "Then I will come with you." "No, it is too dangerous." "Yuna." His voice was soft but firm. "For months you have protected me. You have fought for me. You have become someone new because you chose to. Now let me stand beside you. Let me help." She wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him to stay safe, to hide, to let her handle this alone. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw something she had never seen before. Not fear, not foolish bravery, something else. Trust. He trusted her. And more than that, he believed in her. He believed she could be something other than a weapon. "You are impossible," she whispered. "So I have been told." She went to her father alone. Tai-Ho wanted to come, but she convinced him to stay, at least for now. This was something she needed to face herself. Lord Kang's ship was massive and dark, hidden in a nebula where no human patrols would find it. Inside, the corridors were cold and empty. Guards stood at attention as Yuna walked past, their eyes following her with suspicion. Her father waited in the command center, surrounded by screens showing fleet positions and battle plans. He was preparing for war. He had probably never stopped preparing. "You came," he said. "I was not sure you would. I am still your daughter." "Are you?" He turned to face her. "My daughter was the Crimson Reaper, the most feared warrior in the Empire. This creature before me is something else, something soft, something human. Perhaps I have learned that there is more than one way to be strong." Lord Kang laughed, a cold and empty sound. "Strength is power. Strength is conquest. Strength is making your enemies fear your name. Everything else is weakness." "Then I am weak." His laughter stopped. "You will not kill the Admiral?" "No." "You will not return to us?" "No." "Then you are a traitor to your blood." He raised his hand, and guards appeared from the shadows surrounding her. "And traitors must die." They attacked. Yuna was outnumbered, 20-1. But she was the Crimson Reaper, and even diminished, even changed, she was still dangerous. She fought with everything she had, her claws slashing, her body twisting through the air. Guards fell around her, but more kept coming. Then Lord Kang joined the fight. He was ancient, older than her by thousands of years. His power was immense, his speed impossible. He struck her once, twice, 3 times. She felt bones crack, felt blood pour from wounds that would have killed a human instantly. She fell. Lord Kang stood over her, his face twisted with disgust. "Pathetic. This is what love has made you. This is what humans have done to my daughter." Yuna looked up at him through bloody eyes. "You are wrong, Father. They have not made me weak. They have made me free." He raised his claw to deliver the killing blow. And then she did something she had never done before. She reached deep inside herself to a place she had always kept locked away. A place of ancient power, terrible and vast. The power of her bloodline. The power she had inherited from 1,000 generations of vampire lords. She had suppressed it for centuries because it frightened her. Because using it changed her, made her something less than human. But now, facing death, she had no choice. She unleashed it. The power exploded outward in a wave of crimson light. Lord Kang was thrown backward, crashing through screens and walls. The guards were scattered like leaves in a hurricane. The entire ship shook. Yuna rose to her feet, her wounds already healing, her eyes burning with ancient fire. She was no longer the Crimson Reaper. She was something older, something her father had forgotten existed, a true vampire lord. She walked through the ship, destroying everything in her path. Not killing, not unless she had to, but breaking, shattering, making it clear that she was not the weak creature her father believed. She found an escape pod and launched herself into space. Behind her, Lord Kang's ship listed and burned, crippled but not destroyed. He would survive. He would come for her again. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Tonight she had made her choice. She had chosen humans. She had chosen Taeho. She had chosen to be something new. The escape pod carried her back toward Colony 7, toward the only home she had ever known. And in the darkness of space, surrounded by stars, Yuna smiled. She was free. Yuna crashed in the fields outside Taeho's house, her escape pod carving a long scar in the soil. She was barely conscious when he found her, stumbling through the wreckage on legs that would not hold her weight. "Yuna!" He caught her as she fell. "What happened? You are covered in blood." "My father," she whispered. "He is coming. He will not stop. We have to warn them. The celebration. Admiral Hana. Everyone." She collapsed in his arms. When she woke, she was in her bed. Sumin, the xenobiologist, was examining her wounds. Dae-sung, the one-armed soldier, stood by the door, his face grim. "How long?" Yuna asked. 2 days, Taeho said. He was sitting beside her, holding her hand. "You were badly hurt. Sumin says you should be dead." "I am hard to kill." She tried to sit up and gasped at the pain. "The celebration. When is it?" 3 days from now. "We have to stop it. Lord Kang will attack. He has a fleet. He has been planning this for years." Dae-sung stepped forward. "Can you prove any of this?" Yuna pulled a data chip from her pocket. She had grabbed it from her father's ship during her escape. Everything is here, fleet positions, attack plans, the names of other sleeper agents. Dae Sung took the chip and plugged it into his tablet. His eye widened as he scrolled through the data. This is, this is everything. Locations, timing, weapons. He looked at Yuna with new respect. You got this from inside Lord Kang's ship? I got this from my father's personal database. He trusted me. He should not have. Tae-ho squeezed her hand. What do we do now? Now we fight. Yuna forced herself to sit up, ignoring the pain. We go to the celebration. We warn Admiral Hana. We stop the attack. We? Su-min raised an eyebrow. You can barely stand. I will heal. I am vampire. Give me blood and time, and I will be ready. Dae-sung was already making calls. Within hours, a network of contacts spread the word. Veterans, scientists, officials who had lost family in the war and would not see it begin again. By nightfall, a small ship was waiting to take them to the celebration. Yuna drank blood, donated by volunteers who understood what was at stake. She felt her strength returning, her wounds closing, her power rebuilding. By the time they left Colony 7, she was nearly whole again. The diplomatic station was beautiful, a great ring of silver and glass floating among the stars. Ships from both sides filled the space around it. Humans and vampires mingled in the corridors, tentative but hopeful. 1 year of peace. It did not seem like much. But after 3 centuries of war, it was everything. Admiral Hana received them in her private quarters. She was older than Yuna remembered, her hair white now, her face lined with age. But her eyes were sharp and her voice was strong. The Crimson Reaper, she said, looking at Yuna. I never thought I would meet you under peaceful circumstances. I am not the Reaper anymore. I am just Yuna. And you bring me evidence of a conspiracy? Yuna handed over the data chip. Everything you need. My father is coming. His fleet will attack during the celebration. He means to kill you and restart the war. Hana studied the data for a long moment. Then she looked up. Why are you doing this? Why betray your own people? Yuna thought about the question. She thought about Tae-ho, standing quietly beside her. She thought about the fields of Colony 7, the plants growing in poisoned soil, the simple kindness of tea and extra blankets. Because they are not my people anymore, she said. Humans are, or at least one human is. Hana looked at Tae-ho. Something passed between them, a silent understanding. Very well, the Admiral said. We will prepare. The celebration began at sunset, station time. The Great Hall was filled with light and music and carefully optimistic speeches. Humans and vampires sat together at long tables, eating food that had been designed to satisfy both species. It was awkward and uncomfortable and wonderful. Yuna watched from the shadows, her senses extended, searching for any sign of attack. It came at midnight. The station shook as Lord Kang's fleet decloaked and opened fire. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. In the Great Hall, people began to panic. Everyone to the shelters, Hana commanded. Her voice cut through the chaos, calm and strong. Defense forces, to your stations. But Yuna knew it would not be enough. The fleet was too large, too powerful. Even with warning, the station could not hold out forever. She found Tae-ho in the crowd. Stay here, stay safe. Where are you going? To end this. She moved toward the docking bay, where a small shuttle waited. She would board her father's flagship. She would face him one last time, and one of them would not survive. But when she reached the shuttle, someone was already inside. Tae-ho, what are you doing here? She demanded. Coming with you. This is not your fight. You could die. He smiled, that same gentle smile she had come to love. It became my fight when I chose to stand beside you. I am not going to stop now. She wanted to argue. She wanted to force him off the shuttle, to keep him safe. But she saw the look in his eyes and she knew he would not be moved. You are impossible, she said. So you keep telling me. They flew toward the flagship together. The battle was chaos. Ships exploded around them. Energy beams cut through the darkness. Somehow they made it through, landing in Lord Kang's docking bay. Guards rushed to meet them. Tae-ho picked up a fire extinguisher from the wall. I have a really bad idea. What? Distraction. Before she could stop him, he charged toward the guards, spraying white foam everywhere and shouting at the top of his lungs. It was absurd. It was insane. And it worked. The guards were so confused that Yuna cut through them before they could react. They fought their way through the ship, Yuna leading, Taeho following. He was not a warrior, he was a farmer, but he refused to stay behind, and somehow, impossibly, he kept up. They found Lord Kang on the bridge. He was waiting for them, standing before a massive window that showed the battle outside. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with rage. "Daughter," he said, "I see you brought your pet." "This ends now, father. Surrender." He laughed. "Surrender? I have never surrendered in 5,000 years. I will not start now." He attacked. The fight was brutal. Yuna and Lord Kang clashed with speed and power that would have killed any human instantly. Claws rang against claws. Blood sprayed across the floor. They were evenly matched, each knowing the other's techniques perfectly. Then Lord Kang broke through her guard. He grabbed Taeho, lifting him by the throat. The human struggled, but he was helpless against vampire strength. "Put him down," Yuna said. "Why? He is nothing. A brief spark that will be forgotten in a century. You would throw away your heritage, your power, your family for this?" "Yes." Lord Kang's eyes widened. And in that moment of surprise, Yuna struck. She poured everything she had into a single attack. All her ancient power, all her rage, all her love for the impossible human who had taught her to feel again. The blow went through Lord Kang's chest. He staggered backward, releasing Taeho. The human fell to the floor, gasping for air. Lord Kang looked down at the wound in his chest, then up at his daughter. Something like understanding crossed his face. "You have become human," he whispered. "No," Yuna said. "I have become myself." He collapsed, his ancient body finally giving out. Around them, the flagship's systems began to fail. The battle was lost. The vampire fleet was surrendering. Yuna caught Tai-Ho as he struggled to stand. He was bruised and battered, but alive. His heart was still beating, slow and steady. "Is it over?" he asked. "Yes." She held him close, feeling his warmth against her cold skin. "It is over." Outside the window, the stars burned bright and eternal, and Yuna, the monster who had become something new, carried the human she loved back toward the light. 6 months passed. Colony 7 had changed. The fields were greener now, stretching toward the horizon in waves of gold and emerald. The damaged areas from the rogue vampire attack had been repaired. New buildings rose where old ones had fallen. Life continued as it always did. Yuna stood at the edge of the largest field, watching the sun rise. She had learned to appreciate sunrises now. They did not hurt her the way legends claimed. That was just a story humans told to comfort themselves during the war. The truth was simpler. Vampires preferred darkness because they could see better in it. But there was something beautiful about light. There was something beautiful about a lot of things she had never noticed before. Taeho walked up beside her, carrying 2 cups of tea. He moved with a slight limp now, a gift from Lord Kang's flagship. The doctor said it might heal with time. He said he did not mind. He called it a reminder. "You are up early," he said, handing her a cup. "I could not sleep." "Vampires do not need sleep." "No, but I have learned to enjoy it." She took the cup and felt its warmth against her cold hands. "I enjoy many things now that I never did before." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the colors spread across the sky. This had become their ritual, these quiet moments at the start of each day. They did not need to fill them with words. Simply being together was enough. Much had changed since the battle at the station. Lord Kang's death had shattered the conspiracy. The other sleeper agents, revealed by the data Yuna had stolen, were captured before they could act. Some chose to surrender peacefully. Others had to be stopped by force. But the peace treaty held. Against all odds, it held. Admiral Hana had offered Yuna a position as an ambassador between vampire and human societies. It was strange work, using her fearsome reputation to build bridges instead of burning them. When she entered a room, vampires still trembled. When she spoke, humans still listened with fear in their eyes. But now, instead of using that fear for destruction, she used it for peace. "People are still afraid of me," she said one day to Taeho. "Of course they are. You are the Crimson Reaper." I was the Crimson Reaper. Some stories do not die easily, but they can change. He smiled at her. Give them time. They will see what I see. And what do you see? Someone who chose to be better. Someone who proves that the past does not have to define the future. Suman had continued her research, studying the changes in vampire war brides across human space. Her findings were remarkable. Almost every bride who had been placed with a human family reported similar experiences. Emotional awakening, decreased aggression. Some even showed physiological changes, their cold skin warming slightly, their need for blood decreasing. It is like you are becoming more human, she told Yuna during one of their sessions. Is that possible? I do not know, but something is happening, something we do not fully understand. Suman looked at her with fascinated eyes. Humans have a strange effect on other species. We adapt to them, but they also adapt to us. And somehow, in the process, everyone changes. Yuna thought about this often. She thought about all the vampires who had been sent to human homes expecting hatred and finding something else, something unexpected, something that made them question everything they had been taught. Humans did not just survive, they transformed. And they transformed everything around them. It was terrifying. It was beautiful. It was the most human thing she had ever encountered. Today was a special day. Yuna and Taiho had invited their friends to the farm for a small ceremony. Dai Sung came, his one arm strong enough to carry gifts for everyone. Suman came, already taking notes for her research. Admiral Hana came, looking tired but happy, her white hair shining in the sunlight. They gathered in the garden, under a tree that Taiho had planted 5 years ago. It was tall now, its branches spreading wide, its leaves rustling in the gentle breeze. Thank you all for coming, Taiho said. 6 months ago, I thought I might die on a vampire flagship. Instead, I am standing here with the people I love, celebrating something I never thought I would have. He turned to Yuna and took her hands. Her skin was still cold. His was still warm. But somewhere between them, in the space where their fingers touched, there was something that felt like fire. When you first came to my door, he said, I did not know what to expect. I only knew that I was tired of being afraid, tired of letting the war define my life. I wanted to believe that things could be different, that people could change, that even the most terrible monster could become something new. Yuna felt tears building behind her eyes. She had cried more in the past 6 months than in the previous 5 centuries combined. She had not known she was capable of so many tears. You taught me that I was right, Taiho continued. You taught me that change is possible, that the past is not a prison, that love can grow in the strangest places if you give it enough light and time. He knelt before her, still holding her hands. Yuna, I do not care what you were. I only care what you are and what you will become. Will you marry me? Not because of a treaty, not because of obligation, but because you choose to? Because you want to spend whatever time we have together? She looked down at him, this impossible human who had never feared her, this gentle man who had forgiven her for the unforgivable, this ordinary person who had proven more extraordinary than any vampire she had ever known. Yes, she whispered, yes, I will marry you. The small crowd cheered. Daesung wiped his eye with his remaining hand. Suman scribbled furiously in her notebook. Admiral Hana smiled, her old face softening with genuine joy. Later, after the ceremony, after the food and the speeches and the laughter, Yuna and Taiho walked alone through the fields. The sun was setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. They stopped at a patch of soil that had been especially damaged during the rogue vampire attack. Taiho had been working to restore it, adding nutrients, planting bacteria, doing all the slow and patient work that healing required. He handed Yuna a seed. What is this? She asked. A tree. The same kind as the one in our garden. He knelt and dug a small hole in the earth. I thought we could plant it together, a symbol of what we are building. Yuna looked at the seed in her hand. Such a small thing, such a fragile thing. And yet, given time, it would grow into something strong and beautiful and lasting. She placed the seed in the hole. Together they covered it with soil. Together they watered it with water from a nearby stream. Do you think it will grow? She asked. Taiho stood and brushed the dirt from his hands. He looked at her with those kind eyes, the same eyes that had welcomed her on her first day, the same eyes that had never shown her fear. Everything grows, he said, given time. She took his hand. Her skin was cold. His was warm, and somewhere between them, something new was beginning. Something that had no name yet. Something that might take centuries to fully understand. But they had time. They had all the time in the world. Above them, the first stars were appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, other vampires were looking at what humanity had done, and for the first time, they were afraid. Not of human weapons, not of human tactics, but of something far more dangerous. Humanity's stubborn, inexplicable capacity to love. It changed everything. It changed monsters into people. It changed enemies into friends. It changed war into peace and darkness into light. And on a small farm on Colony 7, a vampire who had killed thousands and a farmer who had lost everything stood hand in hand, watching the stars come out, and knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. Because that was what humans did. They loved, they hoped, they believed in impossible things, and somehow, against all odds, they made those impossible things come true. The end.